Pretty good job. They have a lot of lichen and algae. So I use a Garlic pole and then a gutter hook just like that. You can get these things on Amazon. You can get them on WCR, get them all over the place. These Garlic poles you can get on WCR. That's window cleaning resource, or I believe windowcleaner.com. I'll leave a link in the description for you. But what we're doing here is I like to take this extension pole like this and come down to the edge and just use this guy to pull all this nasty stuff out of the gutter, right? Or make little piles so that when I come back with my bucket, it's a simple process to get it out. Now, depending on how much pitch you're working on, sometimes it's more beneficial to just scoop it and let it drop to the ground and then do a ground cleanup. So that's 100% up to you and what you need to do to stay safe on a roof. Always good idea to have a harness on. Always good idea to have a buddy if you're working on ladders, but you can totally do this by yourself also. All right, so I've broken up that stuff off the bottom. That's gonna make it easier when I come back with my gutter spoon. And when it's dry outside, you can actually just come by after you do this part and hit it with a blower and then do ground cleanup. This is all situationally dependent. You'll hear some companies that only blow and then they do a lot of cleanup, some that only pull, but I've found that it's totally situationally dependent, and you're gonna change your methods based off of, as we used to say in the military, MET-TC, right? It essentially just breaks down to what does your terrain look like, what are you trying to get done, what are the threats, and how much time do you have, you know? So just be smart about how you're breaking down the job and be safe while you're doing it, and make sure you provide a good product to your client, and everything will work smooth for the most part. This is a good example right here of a loose gutter. So when I push on it, you can see it's moving back and forth. I'll come back up here and hit this nail here and get that nail tightened back up, or gutter spike. And I like to make sure that I tighten all those up for my customers. I'll also, you can get a, it's a gutter screw, so not a bracket. It looks like a spike, but the end of it is a screw. And you can get those at a lot of your hardware stores. I found those to be great if the gutter spike hole has worked itself too much and there's not enough material there. You have two options at that, well, three options at that point. One, replace it with a gutter screw, which looks like a spike, but it's a screw. Two is replace it with a bracket. And then three is to reposition the existing spike. That, again, is situationally dependent. And make the decision based off of the information you have in front of you. I put this painter's hook onto the bucket, just like that, and then you can just loop it through your thumb as your post arm, and then reach down and pick all this out of the gutter with your other arm. When you're working from a ladder, you just take this and drop it right there on the gutter itself. The bucket hangs, and then you can deposit all your gutter debris in there. All right, so now I've got the soft wash gun up here, and what I'm doing is I'm just rinsing all these gutters out. I like using the M5 twist nozzle. It's great because you can change the nozzle size and it helps you kind of not put too much pressure where you don't need pressure. So see how these gutters are all pretty nasty right here still after pulling all the big junk out. So now we're going to rinse that. We start our soft wash gun away from the work area, and then we move towards the work area. So I'm going to open this spray nozzle up just a little bit, and then we're going to start just spraying along here, getting all those little bits out of there. Doing two things. One, I'm rinsing down all the little bits and pieces that hit the neighbor's house because they're so close. Like, this is literally about 12 feet away. And the other is when we come back and spray the roof, this is going to help protect the neighbor's house. When houses are this close together, you got to remember that your pre-wet and your post-rinse has to include the neighbor's property if you're going to be within distance to splash their property. Now you should be able to see down in here how we've gotten this nice and clean. All the little bits have been rinsed out of here. When we roof wash, this algae will get taken care of with the solution. But this is what we're looking for at the end, so that we know that the water is going to flow smoothly and that little bits of stuff is not going to get stuck in it and cause there to be clumps, which create dams eventually, especially when you've got stuff like these guys over here have this dish system and they've got wires in the gutter. So any little bits that are left in there will definitely cause clogging, because they get stuck on those little wires. Do the same thing to the other side, and then move on to treating the roof after we do the lower side. All right, so I finished with the gutters and I rinsed everything down. Did the lower roof off camera, just because I left my camera up here. But now we're just gonna treat this thing real quick and then get out of here. Call it a day. Let me show you what I did on the lower. There's that lower roof is treated. All that stuff will die and fall off. And everything down there has been watered down. So I've got my pre-rinse done. And I'll go back down there at the very end and kind of rinse everything else down. Make sure that any overspray is taken care of. Make sure all the plants are extra wet, and check in with the client and move on to the next one. So this job was actually essentially a subcontract, because I met a guy. I mentioned it on one of my daily updates, but I met a guy a few weeks ago while I was at the gas station filling up, and he called me that evening and said, hey, my pump went out today and I gotta go out of town to take care of some family stuff. Would you be willing to cover down for me? I'll pay the difference, you know, charge your prices and I'll pay the difference. So that's where I got this job from. I say that to just remind you that any opportunity you have to make friends and connections is a good opportunity. Don't pass them up, because you never know when they're going to turn into something beneficial. And that's just a perfect example of how it can turn beneficial. So if you're out there networking, great, but sometimes networking just looks like being a friendly face at a gas station, shaking a hand, being like, hey man, haven't seen you around before, how you doing, how's business? You know, just a quick 5-minute conversation turned into a roof and gutter cleaning in a very short amount of time. So I'm not going to say that's going to happen every time, but it's definitely something that can happen. So keep your eyes and ears open. Be friendly. There's a problem in this community, or in this industry, I would say, in some areas where people get really defensive about their turf or their zone, whatever area they work in. And I understand that it's expensive to get clients, and you know, it's a lot of hard work and stuff, but I'm of the belief that if you help people out and if you're available for them, it doesn't matter if you're competitors, you never know when you're going to need each other on something like a big job, or when your equipment breaks down, or you know, whatever. Maybe you're going through a hard time and you need some advice, or you need a pick-me-up. Like, don't pass up those opportunities just because you're afraid of somebody getting in your space. Yes, there's bad apples out there. There are headhunters, but I like to believe that there's some good-hearted people out there that are honestly just trying to take care of people, honestly just trying to make a good living, take care of their families, and those are the ones I look for. Hey guys, can you leave me a comment if it is helpful when I talk through stuff like this, when I'm just up here kind of shooting it with you while I'm doing a job, just kind of talking whatever's on my mind type thing. If not, I can always just play music or do voiceover in smaller snippets or something of that nature. So let me know in the comments. I am literally here for you. I would love to build a community of people, not just in my area, but across the country, who are in this industry or similar industries, and we can all learn from each other and be encouraging to each other. I'm gonna take a couple minutes here. Sorry, my camera was kind of covered in some condensation there, or water overspray. But I'm taking just a couple minutes here to let that soak into the roof. Then I got to go back and rinse a couple areas of the siding, make sure that it doesn't sit on there, and then rinse down all the plants, rinse down the neighbor's house, and then move on to the next job. Everything is watered down, rinsed off this whole fence in the side of the house. Had to rinse off the neighbor's house too, just because they're so close. Overall, this is a pretty good job. They have a lot of lichen and algae up there, so yeah, looks a lot better. I hope this was helpful to you. If you found value in this kind of talk through of a job site, leave me a comment. Let me know what it was that was helpful to you. Also, let me know if you run a company right now, where you're at, where you're located, whether you're in the US or outside of the US. And if you're thinking about starting a company, also leave a comment down below, just what it is you're thinking about starting, when, any questions that you've got about starting. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Hope y'all have a great day, and peace.